begin with the breaking news. Those images coming in from the Gulf of Mexico tonight, a deadly blast.
In early reports, fishermen along the Gulf of Mexico noticed something unusual. Massive dredging ships, escorted by smaller vessels, were working day and night, scooping up tons of soil from the seafloor. At first, the activity was kept quiet. No official announcements, no press releases, just heavy machinery moving in silence across the waves, digging deep into the ocean bed. Rumors spread quickly. Some believed it was routine construction, perhaps the start of a new shipping lane or undersea pipeline. Others whispered that it was something more secretive, something Mexico's government was not ready to explain. After all, extracting thousands of tons of soil from the ocean is no small project. The cost, the manpower, the scale, it all suggested a mission of enormous importance. Satellite images soon confirmed the fishermen's suspicions. Massive dark patches were appearing in the Gulf, clear evidence of large-scale removal. Scientists who examined the operation pointed out how unusual it was. Typically, soil dredging is done for ports or coastal projects, not in the middle of the sea. Why here? Why now? The mystery deepened when local news outlets reported truck convoys carrying the soil inland, hundreds of miles away from the coast. Eyewitnesses described guarded shipments moving at night, their destinations unclear. Whatever Mexico was pulling from the Gulf, it was not being discarded. It was being preserved, studied, and, most curiously, protected. And soon, investigators uncovered the reason. Beneath the Gulf of Mexico's waters lay something extraordinary, hidden for centuries. The soil was not ordinary earth at all. It carried secrets that could change everything we thought we knew about the region's history, its resources, and possibly even the origins of ancient civilizations. What scientists found in the soil. When the first samples from the Gulf dredging reached laboratories, experts expected to find ordinary sediment, sand shells, and fragments of marine life. Instead, what they uncovered stunned even the most experienced researchers. The soil was rich in rare minerals not commonly found in that part of the ocean. Trace elements of titanium, vanadium, and even unusual crystalline compounds appeared in tests, sparking immediate interest from geologists and energy experts. But minerals were only the beginning. Buried within the soil were fragments that looked manufactured. Small shards of what appeared to be worked stone, pieces of obsidian tools, and even pottery fragments emerged during analysis. These were not naturally formed. They were remnants of human craftsmanship. And yet, they had been resting deep beneath the Gulf waters, far from where any ancient civilization was believed to have lived. Archaeologists were quick to point out that this aligned with long-standing legends. Indigenous groups had passed down stories of lost cities swallowed by the sea, entire civilizations erased by sudden floods or shifting earth. For decades, these tales were dismissed as myth. But now, the soil itself was offering physical proof that something once stood where the ocean now rules. Adding to the mystery, microscopic analysis revealed plant pollen trapped within the sediment. These pollen grains belong to species that no longer exist in the region, some of them dating back thousands of years. This suggested that the Gulf floor may have once been fertile land, supporting human life long before it sank beneath the waves. For Mexico, this was more than a scientific discovery. It was a cultural awakening. The soil hinted at a forgotten chapter of history, one that connected modern Mexico to ancient civilizations long thought to exist only in myths. And as testing continued, researchers realized the Gulf soil was not just a window to the past. It might also hold resources capable of shaping the future. The economic shockwave. As soon as the discoveries were confirmed, attention shifted from archaeology to economics. The Gulf soil was not just a historical treasure. It was a resource of staggering value. Mining experts revealed that the sediment contained unusually high concentrations of rare earth elements, The very minerals required to build modern technologies like smartphones, electric car batteries, wind turbines, and even advanced weapon systems. For decades, the global supply of these rare earths has been dominated by a handful of countries. Suddenly, Mexico found itself sitting on an untapped source that could rival some of the world's biggest reserves. Analysts quickly called it a game changer, predicting that if extraction continued, Mexico could rise to become one of the largest suppliers of strategic minerals on Earth. But the benefits went beyond raw economics. The soil carried signs of complex crystalline structures with unique energy conducting properties. Some scientists speculated they could be applied in next-generation electronics or even renewable energy storage systems, offering breakthroughs not yet achieved anywhere else. In other words, what Mexico was pulling from the Gulf might reshape entire industries. This potential created shockwaves in the global market. Countries that had long relied on other suppliers suddenly looked to Mexico as a future partner or rival. Corporations began to lobby for contracts, while foreign governments quietly pushed for access to the soil shipments. Behind the scenes, pressure mounted. Whoever controlled this new resource would hold a powerful advantage in the coming decades of technological competition. Inside Mexico, the government faced a delicate balancing act. Should the soil be treated as a commercial commodity, opening the door to international trade, or should it be guarded as a national treasure, both for its economic power and for its historical significance? After all, these were not just minerals, they were fragments of a lost world, proof that something extraordinary once stood beneath the Gulf. As these debates raged, one thing became clear: Mexico's soil extraction project was no longer a local curiosity. It had become a global event, one that would change the nation's role on the world stage forever. Echoes of a lost civilization. While economists and corporations were busy calculating profits, archaeologists were gripped by an even bigger question: who left these traces beneath the Gulf? The soil had yielded fragments of pottery, carved stones, and obsidian tools, clear signs of human activity. Radiocarbon dating shocked the experts. Some of the artifacts were thousands of years older than the rise of the Aztecs or Mayans. This suggested that an advanced culture may have flourished along the Gulf Coast long before history books recorded it. Legends from indigenous communities suddenly gained new weight. Stories of sunken cities and lands swallowed by the sea, once dismissed as folklore, now looked like veiled accounts of real events. The discovery reignited debate over whether a lost civilization, perhaps even one connected to ancient global myths like Atlantis, had once thrived in the region before a massive flood or tectonic shift sent it beneath the waves. Satellite scans of the dredging zones added fuel to the fire. Beneath the silt, sonar imaging revealed geometric shapes, patterns that resembled foundations, walls, and roads. To some archaeologists, these were unmistakable signs of human construction now buried under centuries of ocean sediment. To skeptics, they were simply natural formations misread by hopeful eyes. The Mexican government announced new research initiatives balancing secrecy with pride. For the nation, this was not only about rare minerals or scientific data, it was about identity, proof that their land and seas still held hidden chapters of humanity's story. Museums began preparing for exhibitions, while universities rushed to form research teams. Meanwhile, spiritual leaders and storytellers claimed vindication, saying the earth itself was finally confirming what their ancestors had always known. But the discovery also sparked tension. Who would control these artifacts? Would they be studied openly for the world to see, or locked away under government protection? And most importantly, if there truly was a civilization beneath the Gulf, what happened to it? Was it destroyed by nature, or had something else erased it from history? The soil had become more than dirt. It was evidence. evidence that beneath the calm waters of the Gulf of Mexico lies a mystery that could rewrite everything we think we know about the ancient world. Science, environment, and risk. As excitement over the discoveries grew, a sobering reality began to surface. Extracting thousands of tons of soil from the Gulf of Mexico was not without consequences. Marine biologists warned that dredging at such a massive scale could disrupt fragile ecosystems. The Gulf seafloor is home to coral colonies, rare fish, and countless microorganisms that play vital roles in the ocean's balance. Disturbing that layer of sediment risked releasing trapped chemicals, clouding the water, and threatening marine life. Scientists also raised alarms about climate impact. The Gulf seabed holds pockets of methane gas, sealed for millennia beneath layers of soil. Large-scale digging could release these gases into the atmosphere, accelerating climate change. For environmentalists, this was a dangerous gamble, pursuing hidden treasures without fully understanding the price. At the same time, geologists saw opportunity. Studying the extracted soil offered a rare glimpse into the Earth's deep past. Each layer acted like a time capsule, recording shifts in ocean currents, volcanic eruptions, and even evidence of ancient meteor impacts. Some samples contained microscopic fossils of species long extinct, offering clues about how life evolved in the region over millions of years. In this sense, the soil was not only about rare minerals or archaeology. It was a living library of Earth's history. This duality, promise and peril, placed Mexico at a crossroads. On one hand, the findings could launch the country into a new era of technological and cultural influence. On the other, the environmental risks threatened to create long-term damage that no wealth could repair. Global organizations began to weigh in. The United Nations called for strict oversight, urging Mexico to balance exploration with preservation. Environmental groups pushed for temporary halts to dredging until full impact studies could be conducted. Meanwhile, corporations and governments continued pressing for access, driven by the lure of minerals and scientific breakthroughs. The Gulf soil had proven to be more than anyone expected, not just a resource, but a battleground between progress, preservation, and the unknown. And the deeper Mexico dug, the clearer it became whatever secrets the ocean was hiding, they were never meant to be uncovered lightly. The stunning results and what comes next after months of secrecy, guarded convoys, and whispers of lost civilizations, Mexico finally revealed pieces of what the Gulf soil contained. And the results left the world stunned. Laboratories confirmed that the soil held not only rare earth minerals, but also novel crystalline compounds with properties scientists had never recorded before. These crystals conducted energy with extraordinary efficiency, sparking speculation that they could revolutionize clean power technology. If harnessed correctly, they might unlock batteries that last decades, or super-efficient circuits far beyond what modern semiconductors can achieve. Overnight, Mexico went from being a mineral-rich nation to potentially holding the key to a technological leap for all of humanity. The archaeological discoveries were no less astonishing. Teams piecing through the fragments pulled from the soil identified designs that were thousands of years ahead of their time. Intricate carvings that suggested advanced knowledge of geometry and astronomy. Combined with sonar scans of geometric formations on the seabed, it fueled serious debate that the Gulf had once hidden an advanced, forgotten society. Scholars called it Mexico's Atlantis, while local elders said it proved their ancestors' stories true. Culturally, the revelations united Mexico in pride but also divided it in responsibility. Some saw the finds as treasures that must remain national property, protected at all costs. Others argued the discoveries belonged to the world, capable of advancing science and solving global energy crises. The tension reflected the weight of what had been found. This was not just soil, but a key to the past, the future, and possibly to the destiny of humankind itself. And yet, one mystery lingered. Scientists noticed that the soil's mineral composition did not entirely match known geological layers of the Gulf. Some compounds seemed out of place, as if carried from elsewhere. This left researchers with a haunting possibility: the soil may not all be natural. Some of it could have been deposited deliberately, remnants of a catastrophe, or perhaps even something engineered. The Gulf of Mexico had always been a cradle of myths, from sunken lands to tales of gods and storms. Now, those myths were colliding with hard science. What began as an extraction project had become a doorway into history, technology, and mystery on a global scale. For Mexico, the future is uncertain but undeniably powerful. With the world watching, the nation stands at the center of a discovery that could redefine energy, rewrite history, and force us to confront just how much of the Earth and its past remains unknown beneath the waves. A new chapter beneath the waves. The story of Mexico's soil extraction began quietly, almost unremarkably. A fleet of vessels set out into the Gulf of Mexico under the guise of marine research, dredging the seabed in search of geological samples. At first, few paid attention. The Gulf was long known for oil rigs, hurricanes, and fishing grounds. A working sea, not a place where history-changing discoveries were expected. But what those ships pulled from the depths was no ordinary mud. Within the gray sediment were fragments of something astonishing: mineral veins glittering with compounds rare on land, crystalline structures of impossible symmetry, fossils that spoke of long, extinct creatures, and, most unsettling of all, artifacts. Shards of pottery, ornaments fashioned by hands, and stone tools lay mingled with the soil, perfectly preserved by the pressure of the deep. What began as a technical operation had become something much larger. It was no longer just dredging. It was an excavation, and with excavation came revelation. Scientists first focused on the minerals. Tests revealed concentrations of elements critical to modern technology: lanthanides, rare metals, and unusual crystalline lattices that seemed to defy conventional chemistry. In laboratories from Mexico City to Berlin, researchers ran their hands over these samples as though touching the future itself. Some predicted that the soil could fuel revolutions in superconductivity, energy storage, and quantum devices. A new technological age might be hidden beneath the Gulf's waves, waiting to be unlocked grain by grain. Yet science does not thrive on promise alone. As researchers examined the samples more closely, they noticed irregularities. Certain compounds bore isotopic signatures that did not match the geology of the Gulf. They seemed foreign, almost imported from places far beyond their natural occurrence. Where had they come from? Were they remnants of meteor strikes, ancient trade routes now lost beneath the sea? Or did they point to processes still unknown to human science? The questions multiplied faster than answers. Then came the artifacts, undeniable signs that humans once lived, built, and thrived on lands now submerged. Pottery shards bore patterns unfamiliar to known pre-Columbian cultures, yet too deliberate to be dismissed as coincidence. Tools suggested societies that farmed, hunted, and perhaps even traded across territories long swallowed by rising waters. Did an ancient people build cities along coastlines that no longer exist? Were they swept away by sudden disaster? A flood, an earthquake, a shifting of seas? Or did they leave their legacy intentionally buried, preserved beneath the soil like a message to the future? Archaeologists whispered of parallels to myths, stories of drowned kingdoms, of worlds erased but not forgotten. Was the Gulf Mexico's own Atlantis? Or was it something more nuanced, a civilization lost not to myth, but to history's indifference? For every discovery, wonder grew, but so did caution. Environmentalists warned that large-scale dredging could devastate marine ecosystems. The Gulf of Mexico is a living network of reefs, fish, and migratory routes. Disturbing its delicate balance could collapse food chains and scar the ocean floor beyond repair. "We are digging into the past," one activist said, but we may be destroying the present. Indigenous leaders added their voices, framing the soil as more than resource or relic. Beneath those waters, they reminded the world once stretched lands where ancestors walked, prayed, and built lives. To pull their memory from the seabed without reverence was to risk repeating humanity's oldest sin. To exploit rather than honor, they urged Mexico to move carefully, to treat the soil not as treasure but as testimony. The nation found itself at a crossroads. The soil represented wealth, power, and prestige. Yet it also carried responsibility to heritage, to environment, and to truth. Could Mexico balance these forces without surrendering to greed or foreign pressure? Could it become steward rather than exploiter? For the people of Mexico, the discoveries stirred pride. Here was proof that their seas still held mysteries capable of reshaping the world. Children in classrooms traced maps of the Gulf with new fascination. Elders spoke of legends once dismissed as folklore, now gaining unexpected weight. In plazas and markets, conversations turned to the ocean floor, as though the sea had become a neighbor whispering secrets through the waves. For scientists, the soil was both gift and challenge. It beckoned them deeper, not only into the layers of mud, but into forgotten chapters of human history. Each crystal lattice, each fossil fragment, each shard of pottery demanded a story. And stories once uncovered change everything. For the rest of the world, the Gulf became a mirror. It showed how little we truly know about the Earth we inhabit. We dream of stars and galaxies, yet even beneath our oceans lie frontiers that can shake our imagination. The soil reminded us that discovery is not confined to space probes or particle colliders. Sometimes it rests in the mud beneath our feet, or the sea beneath our ships. The story of Mexico's soil is not finished. It is unfolding, layer by layer, question by question. It is a tale of minerals that could power the future, artifacts that rewrite the past, and mysteries that blur the line between science and myth. But at its heart, it is also a test. Will we see the soil as mere commodity, to be mined, sold, and consumed, or will we recognize it as something greater, a bridge between worlds past and present, land and sea, myth and science? A reminder that our pursuit of progress must be tempered with humility. The Gulf of Mexico has spoken, not with thunder or storms, but with silence and sediment. Its soil, lifted from the deep, carries a message, one that asks not only what we can gain, but what we are willing to risk. What lies beneath is no longer hidden. It is in our hands. And as the world turns its eyes to these discoveries, one truth stands unshaken. The ocean floor does not just hold answers to where we came from. It may hold clues to where we are going next. The world reacts. The announcement landed like a thunderclap. When Mexico began releasing the first verified results of the Gulf Soil Project, the world's reaction was immediate and polarized. Overnight, what had started as a quiet scientific endeavor transformed into a geopolitical earthquake. For decades, the global economy had been shaped by whoever controlled access to rare earth minerals. These elements, though buried deep in obscure supply chains, were the backbone of modern civilization, powering smartphones, satellites, electric vehicles, missile guidance systems, and the vast machinery of the digital age. Until now, a small handful of nations held near monopolies on their extraction. Suddenly, Mexico was positioned as a new gatekeeper, standing on the threshold of reshaping the balance of power. Trade delegations descended on Mexico City in waves. Diplomats, investors, and corporate executives competed for meetings with the government. The rhetoric was polite, but beneath the surface it carried sharp edges. Some came bearing promises of billion-dollar partnerships, pledges of infrastructure investment, and joint research ventures. Others arrived with veiled warnings, reminders of trade dependencies, military alliances, and the costs of exclusion. It was clear to everyone the world's technological future now ran, in part, through Mexico's choices. But politics and economics were only part of the story. Beyond the boardrooms and negotiation tables, there was wonder. The soil pulled from the Gulf was not just mineral-rich. Embedded within its crystalline structures were microscopic patterns that baffled scientists. Lattices unlike anything found on land, forming stable geometries that seemed engineered by nature itself. Early tests suggested properties that could revolutionize energy storage, superconductivity, and even quantum computing. As word spread, universities from Tokyo to Cambridge to Sao Paulo announced new research exchanges eager to study the samples firsthand. Professors who had spent lifetimes studying sediment and mineralogy now found themselves at the center of what some were calling the new Rosetta Stone of materials science. Cultural institutions moved just as quickly. The soil carried not only crystals but artifacts, shards of pottery, ornaments, and tools preserved for thousands of years beneath layers of silt. Museums drafted exhibition plans before they even secured items, envisioning halls that would merge geology with archaeology, industry with myth. Documentaries rushed into production, streaming platforms competing for the rights to chronicle the secrets of the Gulf. For ordinary people, the story ignited imagination. Talk shows and news anchors compared the discovery to Atlantis. Social media swarmed with theories of sunken civilizations, lost temples, and ancient migrations now resurfacing from the sea. Children asked whether mermaids might once have swum where the soil had lain undisturbed. For a brief moment, the world felt united in curiosity, marveling at proof that the ocean still held secrets capable of rewriting history. Yet beneath the awe ran a growing unease. Environmental organizations sounded alarms almost immediately. The dredging operations, they warned, risked devastating ecosystems that had survived undisturbed for millennia. The Gulf of Mexico was home to coral reefs, fragile fisheries, and migratory routes for countless species. Endless extraction could collapse food chains, poison waters with sediment plumes, and erase habitats before they were even fully studied. "We may be pulling treasures from the deep," one activist declared at a protest, "but we're also pulling the thread that holds the tapestry together." Indigenous leaders echoed the call for restraint, but added another layer. For them, the soil was not simply a resource, it carried memory. Beneath those waters once stretched lands their ancestors had walked, hunted, and worshipped upon before rising seas swallowed them. To dredge without ceremony, without respect, was to desecrate not just the earth, but the voices of those who came before. Several councils petitioned Mexico's government to recognize the Gulf soil as sacred heritage, demanding that any profits be balanced with rituals of honor and legal protections for cultural remains.